guys, and welcome to my channel. If you're new, I'm Adrian, and Kiwi is my Indian ringneck. He's quite ornery, and if you're interested in parrot shenanigans, he actually does have his own playlist of videos, which I will put a card up at the top of the screen if you guys want to check that out. But I wanted to welcome you to a new series that I'm starting called Granny Square Tuesday. So initially I wanted to do Granny Square tutorials, and I actually bought this book called the Granny Square Source Book specifically to do tutorials on these squares. However, some of you, actually one of you, pointed out that that might be an issue because since they're published, they're copyrighted. So rather than doing tutorials each Tuesday, I am going to show you guys the Granny Square that I worked up for the week. Before I get to showing you guys this week's Granny Square, though, I do want to say I will link this book in the description box if you want to check it out or if you want to pick up a copy. It is a very nice book. 23 designers are in this book, and after working the first square, I did notice that each square has the designer's name, country, and social media accounts. And so when I go to put where you can get this book at in the description box, I will also put in the description box which square it was, the designer, and their social medias if you guys want to go check out their social medias and, you know, give them a like, a follow, or whatever. I know this first designer has a Facebook and an Instagram, and I think I know for the first, at least the first two, she is the designer of the first two squares in the book. So yeah, that's how this is going to work out. Like I said, I had initially intended it to be tutorials, but that's okay. I have not done a lot of experience. I don't have a lot of experience with Granny Squares. I have, for the most part, sort of avoided them, feeling like they were a little old-fashioned. But then I got to thinking, you know, maybe there are squares out there that, you know, I just don't know about. You know, times change, people get more creative. It doesn't have to be the standard, same old Granny Square or the same, you know, solid Granny Square, that kind of a thing. So that was kind of the idea behind Granny Square Tuesday, is to try to take myself out of my comfort zone. And, you know, because I don't have a lot of experience with Granny Squares, I don't feel like I am experienced enough to design my own yet. But perhaps after working some out of this book, I will at some point become confident enough to design my own. The only Granny Square tutorial I have on my channel is the Skull Granny Square, which I will link up here. Now, that is actually not my design. My video just shows you a few different techniques that you can work up the same square. I noticed in the original video from the original designer that there was a lot of people that were having trouble understanding how to do it exactly how she did it. So basically I just took and made the same square using different techniques, and if you guys watch that video, it does mention that, and the original designer is credited for that design. But anyways, so I am going to turn the camera around and show you guys my first granny square. If you happen to have this book, it is on page 26, and it's called The Spring Square. Maybe I can show you guys. So it's going to be this one right here. And I'm going to turn my camera around so you guys can see my square a little bit better. Another thing is after working my first granny square, like, I'm going to have to get a blocking board. I don't usually block my handmade items. I usually just don't bother to do that. But I'm going to have to start blocking if I'm going to be working with granny squares. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around. I'm going to show you the square and talk a little bit about what yarns I use and what hook I am using. And probably I will talk to you a little bit about what I have in mind to do with all of these squares. So yeah, let's let me show you my square. Alright guys, so here is my version of the first granny square in the book. So you can see I didn't use the same colors. In case you needed a little refresher, this is what the colors look like in the book. It's very pink, very girly. Now, since I couldn't do the tutorials, the idea behind this is I think I'm going to try to do the floral granny squares first and see if I can't do kind of a spring themed maybe throw. I didn't do this the edging in pink because I didn't want it to be too girly, if that makes sense. Also, when I was following the book, I did notice some of the instructions, some of the written instructions are not very clear. It does tell you to use things like the invisible join and whatnot, but you can see I used a few different techniques when joining my rounds. Here I actually used a half double crochet to link this row to that row, so that I could just put my first two in here and then go across, go around, and then put 2 half double crochets in the brown color, chain 2 and join. I think that was, well, that might have been down here. I don't know. One of these rows I tried it that way. Another one of these rows I just did it where I joined with a slip stitch to the next stitch to close the round. I don't really care for the invisible join, so that is why I did not choose to do that. But this is what the front looks like, and you can see it's kind of wonky, like it's a little bit wonky, so that's why I decided, like, I'm gonna go ahead and have to invest in a blocking board if I'm gonna be doing granny squares, just to kind of straighten these out. Now all of the squares in this book are mix and match, so they all have you can see there's like a bunch of them all around the edges, and then here's 2 more, but I wanted to try to do the ones that were kind of floral themed, but because it's mix and match, every side has 20 stitches. So like for example, this square is 40 or 76 stitches in total, plus 4 chain 1 space. Sorry about that, guys. My camera battery actually died. So what I was saying was, because the book is mix and match, each square has a total of 80 stitches around. This one is 76 stitches plus 4 chain 1 spaces. So I think that's nice, especially if you're trying to mix and match and use different squares. This is what the back looks like. So I just went ahead and crocheted over the top of my yarn tails. Nothing too big. I really only intend to weave in the center, because I did notice that a lot of them start off with a magic ring, so I really only intend to weave in the centers or in places that it's absolutely necessary that I weave them in. Like you can see right here that a little bit of tail, but I think that'll probably get sucked in with blocking. It'll get sucked in underneath those stitches. This one has kind of a 3D effect. It does use the popcorn stitch for the petals and these green leaves here, so it gives it kind of a 3D effect. And you can see, like, you can tell in some places, like you can really tell, like you can see where my tail is between those stitches. So you can kind of tell I don't have like a lot of experience with granny squares. Actually today I was playing around with making this square during Sanita's live stream, and I will link her channel below if you care to check out her channel. And she was actually talking about which actually her and her guest, they were talking about which they liked better, a bobble, a popcorn stitch, you know, those kinds of stitches. And I thought that was funny because at the time I was working with these, I was doing these little petals and using the popcorn stitch. So my project idea here is to make a spring kind of themed throw, just to kind of get my feet wet when doing granny squares. And I am using worsted weight yarn, so number 4, with my Christmas kitty. I made this with my Christmas kitty hook. I will link where you can get these types of hooks in the description box. Many of you have already seen me show many of my handmade or hand sculpted hooks on my channel before. This is my 5.75 J hook. The tip is a boy hook, and then the handle is hand sculpted, and it's my Christmas loaf kitty. So yeah, I will definitely be linking the Etsy shop where you can pick up these kinds of hooks. She's also got slimmer ones, because it is my understanding that pencil grippers have trouble crocheting with the thicker handles. I happen to be a knife gripper, so these work great for me. Anyways, so I'm using a 5.75 hook to make up these squares. And then, so starting from the inside, working my way out, This yellow is just a ball of scrap yarn. I'm not even sure what brand it is. I think it might be a DK, but I'm not sure. It does seem maybe a little bit thinner than the other yarns that I picked out, but at least in regards to this square, it didn't make a difference. It's 100% acrylic, I know that. I have no idea what brand or anything like that it is. It's just one I brought home from the thrift store, and my 20-year-old caked it up for me. So the next color that I used is this one right here, and it is from Hirschner's. It is actually out of one of their amigurumi packs. So I don't know if they still have them, but for a while Hirschner's had packs of their worsted yarn, and you got like, I don't know, 6 or 8 colors, and they were all kind of themed. Like they had like an Arctic amigurumi pack, and they gave you a ball of what would be considered Arctic colors, and then they had one that was like forest colors, things like that. And I got, at the time I had bought like one of each of them that they had available, and I actually ended up with a couple of the same colors. I don't know what color this is or which pack it came out of, because since then I've opened them, and these Hirschner's skeins have all gone into my yarn wall by color. So you know, I just have like all the reds together, all the pinks together, you know, that kind of thing. And this one does not actually have a colored name. Now it does recommend a size I9 crochet hook, which I usually go by millimeters, but from what I understand is a 5.5 millimeter. And it's a 3-ounce ball, 183 yards. Recommended knitting needles are size 7 needles. I don't know what that is in millimeters. Oh, wait. There is a color name here, really, really tiny. Lingonberry, Lingonberry. Lingonberry. I don't know what that is, but that's what it says under color name. Color number 1077. So that's what I used for the petals. And you'll have to forgive me, I kind of just pulled out yarns that I thought, I pulled out yarns by color thinking, you know, like this one will look good and that one will look good. So, and some of them are everything, all of them except for the Hirschner yarns were scrap yarns. And so this one is a Red Heart Super Saver. Let's see. Again, it's one that I picked up at the thrift store, and it's called Medium Time. And that's the color that I used for the leaves here. It was just one that I happened to have handy. It was a green that I happened to have handy because, you know, I've been working making some pumpkins for Scream Hollow, the gift shop there, and I was using this color for the stems, so it was just what I had handy at the time for greenery. And then this white color is another Hirschner's, and so it's another one out of those packs, and it's just called Erin. And actually I have already started the second square in the book, so yeah, I've already started it. It's already attached, and I'm using some of the same colors for the second square as I did for the first one. And then this blue is also a Hirschner's yarn. This one is called China Blue. Now the last one is Red Heart Super Saver in the colorway Buff. And I chose this color because I have an abundance of it. I find it very frequently at my thrift store. And when I decided that I was going to try to do a throw with different floral squares in it, I wanted them all to have the same outside color. So like my next square, I want the last row to be this color here. And I want all of the squares to have this buff color. And since I have an abundance of it and it's easy to find at my thrift store, it's easy to find at Walmart, you know, I thought it would be a good color. Also, it doesn't scream girly. It's not got a lot of pink. I didn't want to go with super girly colors because it being a floral type of a throw, you know, that already says girl. And, or at least in my head, flowers scream female or femininity, and I didn't want it to be entirely feminine. I didn't want to, I guess, you know, make it where it would only be considered for a girl or a woman. So I wanted to try to give it a neutral color, and then each square have that neutral color, and they can all be you know, this neutral buff color on the outside. Now I have already put a little bit of thought into how I am going to join these squares in the throw, and well, let me turn the camera around and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But that's a square, and those are the colors of yarn that I chose, and that's the hook. So yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll turn the camera around and I'll talk to you a little bit more about what my plans for this project are. Alright guys, so y'all can see my camera over here. It's charging because apparently it was like completely dead. Anyways, so like I said, I want to try to make a throw with these floral squares, and I've already put some thought into how I'm going to join them. I already know from making a pair of pants with the skull granny square that I don't care to sew my granny squares together. However, there is a a joining stitch called the invisible slip stitch join, and I do quite like the way that looks. I do have a tutorial on it, which I will put up here or up there or whichever side it is. I never can remember ever. But I'll put it up there somewhere if you are interested in learning that. I really like the way that one looks, and so I will probably be doing that to join the squares. And you know, as this series goes along, I'm just going to be showing you guys each square and talking about each square, and giving you my thoughts. Now this first square actually took me 2 attempts, and that's because I misread the pattern. Some of the word usage in the written directions was a little bit difficult for me to understand, and I'm finding that same thing working on the second square. For me, working from the diagram is much better because some of the wordage is just a little bit difficult for me to grasp what it is that they're talking about. So I've actually found that I'm working from the diagram. So just some food for thought. If you do decide to purchase this book, it does have written instructions as well as a diagram. So if you can work from a diagram, you don't have to worry about it. So probably for the rest of this evening, I'm going to sit and work up different granny squares. I'm kind of finding it a little bit fun to work, because they only take, maybe 15 to 20 minutes to make at most. I'm kind of finding it a little fun to make a little bit of a different project, and so I might sit up tonight and just make granny squares and bulk record for, the granny squares for the next couple of weeks. I don't know. I'm having a good time doing this, actually. But anyways, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this introductory video for this new series, and I hope you guys enjoy this series. Like I said, I'm really hoping that it will give me the confidence to attempt to design some of my own granny squares in the future. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and come back next week for next week's square, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!